All right, morning everybody. Today I'll be taking you guys through an introduction to analytical tech and AI in football. So since I'm a BA, I thought I'd stick to my guns and go with analysis. So the two main things we'll be talking about today, or the two overarching technologies, are VAR, so video assistant refereeing, as well as semi-automated offside technology. So first off, what is VAR and how does it work? So video assistant refereeing is a system that was introduced in order to assist referees in their decision making. This was done through providing real-time video footage to referees in order to make more accurate decisions in real-life match scenarios. However, as much as it has reduced the human error, there are still some delays and subjectivity in this system because it still relies a lot on human intervention or manual intervention. If you can see, for example, when deciding on an offside technology or an offside decision, the red and blue lines that are drawn up are still drawn manually by the referee, which can cause a little bit of controversy in terms of its decisions. Typically, there's 4 to 5 referee members that would review this footage. However, it's obviously not 100% accurate because it still relies on human intervention. Thus, it becomes still up for debate amongst fans with regards to its efficiency, because these decisions also cause delays in the match, which can disrupt the momentum of the match and also the fans' experience. So looking at some analytical and technical points in terms of the accuracy and speed trade-off, as much as it's more accurate, the system, there is still delays. So it typically takes over a minute for a decision to be made, which can cause, once again, disruption to the match and disrupt its momentum. That leads again into the subjectivity, its interpretation. So if you can look at the picture, for example, in this scenario, the referee decided because the front part of this guy's foot was slightly in front of the defender, it was deemed to be offside. That can obviously be a bit frustrating for some very passionate fans that believe that's the wrong decision. So it can be very subjective in what the decision can be made and cause a bit of controversy. Thus, there's been a call or a motivation for some semi-automation in this by automating some of the parts of a VR to make it more objective in its decision making. And lastly, in terms of VR in small-scale matches, the actual VAR system itself is very resource intensive, making it very difficult for smaller leagues or matches that have a little bit less of a budget to be able to afford this technology to actually make use of it. So what is the potential solution, or what can be done to make this more objective? That's where semi-automated offside technology comes into play. So how does this work? So SAOT is an advanced system that is used to aid in determining offside decisions. This is the main aim is to provide automation and to remove the human intervention part of VAR. It was designed to support the referees by providing real-time data, by improving the speed and reliability of these offside decisions. This was done using 3D visualizations that can enhance the clarity of these decisions, as well as providing more transparency to the fans. So how exactly does it work? Multiple cameras and data collection. So there are 12 or more tracking cameras that are set up around the stadium, depending on the size of the stadium. And these captures then capture 29 data points per player at 50 times a second. And these are looked in at tracking the player's limbs and extremities in order to aid them in the offside decision that is eventually made. Furthermore, there's ball sensor integration. So there's an inertial measurement unit sensor that is then embedded into the actual ball. This sensor is then used to track the specific position of that ball when that initial pass has been made from the player that led to the possible offside decision. Then there comes real-time data fusion. So once we have the tracking data and the ball data available to us, it is then integrated via a AI algorithm, which then creates this white offside line that you see. So that is using the tracking position of the ball to look at the precise moment that the ball was released, as well as tracking the player's limbs to look at the position of the players when that ball was actually released. So in this case, it deemed the player to be offside because the front part of their shoulder and their knee was in front of the yellow defender. That was done all through automation of that system and non-reliant on the human intervention in this case. Furthermore, there is automated alerts. So when the system is constantly running through scenarios throughout the match, and when it does actually pick up an offside decision, it then sends an automated alert to the actual VAR officials, who will then look at the decision and then communicate that to the ref, who can then communicate that and implement it into the actual match. Next is the visual rendering. So once an offside decision has been picked up, there is then a 3D or animation that is then generated to provide more transparency and clarity on the decision, and that is then shown to the fans and to the referees. Lastly, in terms of the benefits over VAR, SAOT is obviously much faster. So instead of taking over a minute for a decision to be made, it normally takes about 20 to 25 seconds. It's obviously more accurate because of its limb tracking technology, as well as the fact that it removes the reliance on human intervention. So this is just another example of the actual system in play, where you can see the ball has been released by the player on the top left. It then tracks the looks at the offside line to then determine whether that player is offside or not in that play. Okay. So in terms of AI in football and other technologies, what is currently available? So this has been integrated in a number of categories. Firstly, there's training programs. So AI has been enabled the creation of personalized data-driven training plans. These include technologies such as Sport View, which then tracks play positions and actions, as well as Analytical, Fitness AI, and Fitbod, that all offer automated coaching and feedback to improve the performance of teams. Next is the referee decision support systems. So all of these technologies are all somehow integrated into VAR or SAOT. So Hawkeye is the technology that actually looks at the position and the movement of the ball. Sneakometer it's a microchip-based system that can also be implemented in the ball, which actually then physically tracks the position and movement of the ball at the moment that that ball has been released by the player. And electronic line judges is a system that basically tracks all the lines on the pitch, which to identify the lines on the pitch, which helps with goal line technology, which we will get to, but basically then tracks where that line is relevant to the ball to determine whether a goal has been scored or not. Next is wearable tech and sensor data. So this can be used to track the heart rate of players, their motion, the impact that they're putting on their muscles, as well as their hydration levels throughout the game. This can also be implemented into its performance tracking and game day optimization to further improve the performance of players and teams in game day scenarios. Lastly is the health application. So AI can provide a lot of support to injury prevention, diagnostic imaging, as well as sports nutrition and exercise prescription. And lastly, what is currently evolving, or what technology is currently coming up in the space? So as mentioned before, goal line technology that uses magnetic field sensors and high-speed cameras to determine whether the ball has crossed the line, and then that sends real-time signals to the ref's watch to let them know whether that decision has been made, whether the ball has crossed the line or not. This is currently in play in a lot of leagues at the moment. It was actually introduced before VAR. Next is the TraCab Gen 5 optical tracking system. So this is something that still has to be really introduced more into the space, but to explain it simply, it uses optical cameras and AI to collect positional, physical, and tactical data. So this helps a lot in post-game analysis and tactical strategy to see what went wrong, what went right, and what can the team do better to improve the next time. And lastly is the Zone 7 AI system. So this is also a system that is still up and coming and hasn't been properly introduced yet. But this would help predict injury risks to players using medical fitness and wearable data. So again, making use of other technologies to bring it into this, as well as providing daily risk indicators. So this looks at the red, yellow, and green indicators, which will assist coaches in planning training loads. So this would basically track the training loads or the training plans of each player and determine whether they're in the red, which means they have too much load, we need to reduce the amount of training this player is doing, or if it's in the green, we need to increase the amount of training that this player is currently taking part in. So in conclusion, I think there's a lot of growth, there's a lot of opportunity for growth in this space. And I think if you ask me again in a year what the new technologies are, there'll be even more to even talk about in this space. But yeah, thanks. That's it.